why they're called sixes. I brought you out here to tell you about my life and the strange things I've seen, and before I do, I want you to understand that all of my actions, in the end, had their reasons. I was born to a single mother. She was only around 15 or 16 around the time I was born. She wasn't exactly ready to be a mother. Apparently my dad was even less ready because his parents ended up sending him to a boarding school so he wouldn't have to be responsible for me and my mother. We were mostly supported by her parents, but otherwise we were completely alone in the world. I discovered, I guess it was my gift, when I was around 15 years old. My grandmother had passed away and I felt really confused and when I walked into the viewing room on the funeral parlor and saw my gran sitting in a chair next to her own casket. At this point I had already grasped that death meant that you were gone forever, yet there she was. My confusion was overpowered with relief. When approaching her, she seemed, I guess, different. But not quite the same, like when you're picturing something in your head with your eyes closed, but your eyes are open and you're clearly seeing what's in the room. But something entirely different at the same time. She whispered in my ear and kissed my forehead, and then disappeared. I walked up to my mom and asked her about the roses in Italy as Gran had instructed me to. To this day, I still don't know what that meant, but it was important enough to make my mother fall to her knees. She held me, and it was the only time that I remember feeling like she actually loved me. As I grew, my gift became a bit more apparent. I'd see people I wasn't supposed to in everyday situations. A few would even notice and follow me home. I didn't mind. None of them were ever imposed or tried to harm me. They just wanted company until they figured out how to move on. They found someone else that was more interesting to follow around. I'd talk about it as if it was normal. My mother put forth no effort to stop me, but she acted embarrassed when I did it around people. No one took it seriously, though. Not like my mom did. Honestly, I think she feared me for a while. When I was about 8, things changed, though. And it was all due to my mom meeting a man named Mike. He was tall and lanky and smelled really bad. Talked loud, too. Still, he had more stable job than my mom did, so she fell right into his lap. He wasn't a horrible guy at first, just really greedy. My mom told him about my gift, and he came up with the master plan to use me as a pay pig. He posted my name up in phone books as the world's youngest psychic. I don't know if he ever believed my gift was real at first, but he learned otherwise eventually. That's how I started talking to dead people for a living. When I was just beginning to learn multiplication. It was fun at first, but when I wasn't the same old tell my mom I love her bullshit. There was a case when I was 13. I was seeing a family who believed that the spirit of a 4-year-old girl was haunting her house. They claimed they didn't intend to make the girl leave. They just wanted to learn more about her so they could make her more comfortable in the house. When I walked into the house, there was definitely no little girl. There was, however, a gray, non-human entity crouched on their 17-year-old son's back. Its skin was white, but brown, like old paper, and its eyes were fully blood red. It came in human-like shape, but was far from human. These non-humans are something I call sixes. Sixes are souls that never really were human. They're created out of one purpose, created out of pure sorrow and hatred. Their negative emotion embodied into evil, spiritual being. They can project the actions of human spirits to confuse their hosts, make them think they're just victims of a normal haunting. Human souls can't hurt you unless they're extremely sinister, like, I guess, Bundy sinister? Sixes, however, they can't. They suck every emotion out of you and radiate so much of their own sorrow and hatred until you either kill yourself or commit a crime so horrible you'll get lucky to just get the death penalty. They usually go after evil, corrupt, or just plain miserable people. I digress. They're called sixes because you usually only last six months before you totally lose it. I think I started resenting my mother when I was about 16, and I'd gotten tired of the job. Everyone in town knew me as the psychic kid, and all the kids at school called me a freak. By this point, Mike had started to drink away all the money that people had paid me to tell them that their grandmother loved them, or that their dad was still there caring for them, or their dead child was in a better place. He became violent. Hit my mother, and she just took up with it for a while. Then she started to blame me. She would say, "You never would have started talking to fucking Casper, maybe we wouldn't be in this situation." Completely ignoring the fact that it was her boyfriend's fault, not mine. Not long after that, he stopped hitting her and started hitting me. She did too. Okay. Only months later did I start seeing sixes roaming around wherever my parents were. I watched this without a word, still allowing them to escort me to jobs. At first, the sixes would just stay far away. I'd see them out the window and across the street. They creep closer and closer as time went on. Very slowly, my curiosity heavily overweighed my fear. I've only ever seen them on people's backs because I became a bit more startled when they stood at the windows. They knew I could see them, but they disregarded me as if I was just a bystander. I said nothing to my mother the day I watched one crawl onto her back and latch its gaped teeth onto her shoulder. I was surprised when I saw one on Mike's back later that day. I thought about telling Mike and my mother, calling up a specialist to get help, to get rid of the sixes that only just began to drain my sad excuse for a family. Then I thought about finally being free. Never having to do dumb jobs like this that they told me to do. Never be subjected to drunken lectures about my responsibility to support the family. Never explain my bruises away to the teachers. So I didn't tell them. I just sat back and enjoyed the show.